I'm Lucky Day. I'm Ned Niederlander. I'm Dusty Bottoms. And together we're the Three Amigos.
Something about this place. Everybody seems so grim.
Well, they're just intimidated. They've only seen us on the big screen.
We're just folks like you. Just relax.
Okay, amigos, this is it. Ned, big smile. Dusty, just relax and have fun with
We're
it.
just gonna have fun with it.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to
Yes,
Environmental
absolutely it would.
Coffeehouse. And this is the Three Doomigos.
Hey,
Mexico. It's Mother's Day in Mexico, everybody.
So welcome.
Yeah.
And I am not in the show, but guys, everybody in the chat, it's great to see all of you. See, I'm just in the, if they need me, I'm right here up in the top. But I'm going away. So, welcome, Justin, Brett, and Scott. I'm going to leave it up to you guys. There's a lot out there to talk about, and I'm thrilled to host the Three Doomigos. Take it away.
Oh, how's it going, guys?
what's up, dudes?
Is Justin frozen, or did he just completely comatose? How you doing, Brett?
Yeah, Justin's frozen.
Okay. Once he gets out of the cryogenic freeze,
He can go back out and come back in. I'll tell him.
well, sounds good. All right, Brett, how's it going?
It's going. I just got done with
A little
dinner.
bit late because you're on Western collapse time, so
Central Time.
exactly Central collapse time. My bad. Central collapse time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we lost Justin, but you know that's how it is with them.
Come back, Justin.
No. Hey, there we go.
There he is.
Hey.
This is perfect time to lose broadcast, right? Right as we start.
Exactly.
Right.
Just test what it looks like.
So catch me up real quick.
All right. So how's everybody doing?
Justin's broadcast collapsed.
Collapse is here now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Joe.
It's happening as we speak.
Oh, Joe.
So I don't know if you, any of you gentlemen wanted to start, but I figured we would go through kind of, sort of the, a little bit of the origin stories about how we arrived at this intersection where we're all presently at.
Yes.
So
Why
if
don't
you want
you
to do oldest first,
Exactly by that.
and however you want
Oldest
to
first.
interpret
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Would that be me?
Let's start with start on the left.
it. It's definitely not me.
What? All right. Well, Brett.
Okay. Let's see. How did I get started? It's a long story.
4.5.
I've always been aware, like for as long as I can remember. Like, you ever ride past a landfill when you're a kid and look at it and think, this is what adults do?
Yeah.
That's kind of where it all started. And then, 9/11, that was my freshman year of high school. That was pretty eye-opening, to say the least. Let's let's see, what year did that movie Collapse come out, starring Michael C. Rupert? So like
Oh,
2008,
six, maybe?
2009, right after the financial collapse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And he was
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about like peak oil and shit. And
Imagine if he
then he
was
did,
still like, yo, there's some
He'd
yeah,
have a lot to say about every single week
they
that
were here,
happened in
right,
and we need them the most. Holy shit!
yeah,
So, Brett, what you said about you were a freshman when 9/11 happened. So
yeah,
that's a good base mark because I was in like second grade when 9/11 happened.
I think I was a freshman too. Yeah, that was a weird
yeah,
time. I didn't know anything about. I thought it
yeah, it
was the
was.
revolution. It was before the internet. I was like, they hit the financial center. Oh, I'm saying this on the internet. All right, I was like, that literally was like, I think I was like a soft, like, yeah, it might have, it was ninth or 10th grade. And I was like, you don't know shit about this, especially back then. People don't understand. Now you can Google anything. Then like Google existed
Yeah,
probably, but like I don't even know if I had internet at that point. Like it's complicated. Like now it's like, oh, you can't just the accessibility we have to knowledge is just crazy now, and it's taken for granted.
yeah.
But really, like when it
They
first
had
happened
internet at school.
on TV, I was like, they hit the
Right. Yeah.
Centers for War and the Center for Capitalism, Global Capitalism. I was like, this is the communist revolution. This is it, guys. I was running through the hallways of the school, like, yeah, this is it, the revolution. And then I was like, oh no, wait, it's just some extremist religious theocrat terrorism. Just they got lucky. 'Cause-
That's what
Right.
they
Well,
want you to think.
is
it's
it? I
interesting
mean,
that
let's talk about
you
this. This
bring
is
up.
the
Yeah.
9/11 conspiracy podcast. Let's fucking do it. No, I'm serious. I totally was.
That's one avenue of see.
The-
So you could have such a long conversation just on that aspect of collapse itself, because then there were a number of wars that stemmed off of that, and then you could
the lead
tease apart each and every one of those and the impact of that on the region and the global impact with regards to crops, etc. So these are good things to bring up. For me, I was always interested in kind of the surface level, general preservation of the environment. Like the more I learned, even before college, just about pollution and, like you said, driving by landfills. I grew up in Philadelphia, and it was a very dirty city. There's a lot of refineries, both in the city and around, and incinerators, like these really large smokestacks where they burn trash, and it kind of smells like sulfuric, like bad eggs, kind of. And
Yeah,
there's a lot of them around, and you start asking yourself questions even as a kid as to why, for example, why are they in certain places and then other places they're really nice and there's parks and everything's green. So there's
yeah,
like, we're all kind of teasing at different systemic inequalities that are kind of segueing us along this pattern of collapse. So I guess each and every one of us individually but together are we're picking up as young people these different facets of, you know, leading to collapse.
yeah,
I feel old because I was always like, so I don't know. I never figured I'd live this long, so I always figured,
yeah. Me neither.
collapsing pretty much like steadily, right? That's a weird. It's like, damn. Well, didn't expect to see that because I learned about global warming kind of early. I was like, some of us were in that right age where it wasn't politicized, and like I think this gets, between when like the Montreal Protocol happened and when the oil industry realized like, oh, we need to take over government to make sure that more more actively play a role in elections as the oil industry, just like they did this week with Trump. I mean, so I don't, let's bring it to some news. So the other day, yesterday or the day before, I don't know. It's hard to keep track of days at
Yeah,
the end of the
I
week.
heard
But
about that.
yeah, so at Mar-a-Lago, I guess or maybe I'm just
Yep.
making that part up, but it sounds better. At Mar-a-Lago, a bunch of oil executives, Trump asked a bunch of oil executives for $1 billion for his campaign in return for political favors. I mean, just the corruption is so open, it's crazy. What are we doing? The fuck is going on in the world? I don't even know, man. It's just crazy. Like,
I
and
just heard
at the
about that
same
on Blackbird News today.
I can't even vote for his opponent because he's committing genocide of children. That's like, oh, the
Yep.
genocide is going to be worse under the other guy, and it's Biden's toast. Like, and plus the economy's jacked, and it's like, oh, but the stock market's going up. Yeah, line goes up. It doesn't mean shit. Dude. Honestly, the whole stock market is a Ponzi scheme. It should be criminalized. Honestly, shut it down. Shut it, the fucking stock market down. Anyway, off topic. Back to topic. What do you guys think about Trump and the oil industry just openly, just totally destroying our democracy, like whatever democracy, if you want to call it that, in sarcastic quotation marks?
I mean, I'm not surprised.
Thoughts about that? It's just crazy. It's so brazen. Wow.
Like, I knew the war in Iraq was for oil. Like, back to 9/11. Like, why are we invading Afghanistan and Iraq? They didn't attack us. The hijackers were Saudis. The Saudis supply our oil. Why are they attacking us? I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, when there's a surface level perception that this war is being fought for this, religious cause, or to defend against this threat, and then underlying all of that, it's about resources. Looking through history, there's so many different things in our lifetime, which is a short period of time, where you can see things are just, it's under the guise of resources, and we just need more oil, and we need to sustain growth at all costs for the Western world, where we live as Americans, and Europe and stuff like that. I think that's the mindset behind the machine that's been running since, like we were talking about 9/11, like ever since that happened and before. That mindset has been deeply entrenched in the establishment. And now a lot of us young people are kind of getting disenfranchised with the general establishment. I don't have to tell everybody about it. About a lot of younger Democrats are dissatisfied with how things are going with regards to foreign policy. Let's say in a lot of different ways, not just Gaza. So it's just kind of boiling to the surface. And Scott, as you mentioned, we didn't have the internet to the extent that we do now when we invaded Afghanistan and Iraq. So there's the.
Still
imagine
enough.
if,
At that point,
you
I
could
think
see,
it was enough. Like
imagine if you could see,
I was
that's
like,
true. Like, just imagine if you could see all the atrocities live streamed the way you can today. If
the
how that would have
straight up
swayed any
live
of the things that
stream,
happened.
just watching it. I mean, it's.
I remember some of the memes that came out around 9/11. Like back in the early days of memes.
Yeah, that was before I even saw a meme. I wouldn't have known what a meme was anywhere near those
You
days.
have to go on websites to find them.
They're more like flash animations.
Let's talk a little bit more about the environmental situation, because I think we could go for many hours about different
wars and resources.
I mean, that's key to it, though, isn't that? That's absolutely key to it. That's the weird thing, though. It's like we're at an inflection point where we all know that we don't really need oil in the same way, and yet we have probably our next president being openly bought off like a cheap whore or Mar-a-Lago by the oil and gas industry, and but we all know that we don't really need it at this point. Like, we're just making collectively psychopathic decisions. Like, this is. Like, I think it's key. It is key. What's more key to the environment than wars for resources? That's the it's wild. I don't. It's on some level. Like, as I grew up, it just seems crazier. Like, what are the freaking adults doing? These boomers have literally lost their minds. Like, not all of them. Obviously, none of them watching this, but like basically all the others. Like 99% of the boomers who aren't watching this stream, like, or following this channel, like, or they've lost it. Have you had conversations with your parents lately? Like, honestly, everybody, they seem like they have, like, I don't know about yours, then, like, has the older generation lost it? Where are they? What are they thinking? Because I remember being in second grade and imagining this future as terrifying and being like, well, I might as well overdose on heroin before then, but too much of a pussy to fucking fuck with needles, and I don't fucking, still alive, still here, still kicking. So I'm still here, just surprised, like, oh, but everyone's still just popping up babies like normal. We're just gonna keep the machine going. Like,
you have to look at the lens of how things have been, and that's why I pay so much attention to things like, for example, everybody's talked about how Exxon buried reports they had in the 70s about things could be a problem with greenhouse gases down the road. There's direct science that could have been made to the public and could have persuaded different opinions, and it was deliberately buried. So I think those kind of things are important. It's when you say, "Oh, I'm so surprised about this," I understand that, but when you look at things like the Exxon case, for example, it's not that surprising for any of our parents to not go along with any of the conflicts that are happening or any of the climate chaos that's happening. Like, for example, there
And I
have been
get
a
how
lot
it
of
makes sense, but
been a
it
lot of
doesn't make
tornadoes.
sense for them to look at us and act
Yeah,
like they give a shit about us. That's the part that doesn't make sense. And to just like at some point, maybe we just need to be like you're either ready for the home or like you're full of shit. I mean, not my mom. My mom's cool. So, but she's also there's like no, my mom's cool, but she's also in a unique place, and I like I'm a determinist, so like there's a lot of factors, and like not I see it. I see it in other like family members. I see it like all around. I see it. There's some level of like they live in a different world. They live in a world that doesn't exist anymore. And we know so much more because of the internet. Like that's what is the game
Hmm.
changer. Like yeah, in the 70s, the Exxon executives in the rooms making these decisions with their little fucking power plays and shit. Whatever, what was that show called? Mad Men? Mad Men style shit,
Mad
probably.
Men, yes.
No. I never watched it. I'm just guessing. So spitball.
I didn't
But
either.
it's with those kind of power dynamics it seemed different like but now we have access to everything like we can know everything we can kind of know everything
well,
from
the
anywhere
problem with knowing everything,
and have no
Brett,
food starving to death being genocided and still have like access to all human knowledge in your hand like
you have
we
to
live and it's crazy
search
people
for that
don't talk
unless
about how
it's
crazy this time is
completely put in front of your face by another person on their phone. Like, you can choose to stream shows and watch sports. Like, you can make a conscious, as a person that's older, not just saying me, like, you can make a conscious choice to bury your head in the sand and quote unquote try to enjoy things and not pay attention. And so many people are doing that because I
Yep,
think they're more and more worried about losing whatever privilege they have left. And people don't even
exactly.
realize what privilege is, and they get uncomfortable by that word. But it's like, we have it. We're like, the way my internet shut down when we started. I have the privilege of it not doing that again. For example, like, we all have the privilege of internet and phones. So
Yep,
losing those kind of things creates that kind of fear, and it creates that tunnel vision of, oh, I have to focus on, you know what I mean, on that necessarily unimportant things. Like, I think way more people should be paying attention to the Arctic, even on years where scientists are saying, "Oh, it's not going to be this year for a blue ocean event." That doesn't necessarily mean there's a lot of bad things not happening. Like, every year, I hear that we're not going to have a BOE. Okay, well, there could be feedback loops happening under the surface, and Jim Massa talks about this: different feedback
hmm,
loops in the ocean with regards to stratification that are directly impacting the ability of the ice to reform in winters, which is segueing more and more summer melt and a closer and closer BOE.
it, this is why like what makes sense to focus on I think is humans and our relationship to nature and just how we look at it culturally economically politically everywhere just as like as humans ourselves I guess whatever ourselves are like and on some level like if shit's gonna work we need a whole different organization of like everything like what do you guys think about spirituality and like do you guys do many meditation I'm assuming you probably don't have religious beliefs, or like if you do, what's your God doing about climate change and then collapse? I'm curious, but so I just assume you're pretty hard atheist at this point. So like, but do you guys do any meditation, psychedelics? Do you have any experiences or like with nature that like changed you, or like how? I'm curious, like where really plugged you into like 'cause the way I look at it is like ecology and spirituality are really the same thing. It's the interconnectedness of everything, and it's just being able to realize that, and that's somehow we
Yep.
need that to like we need to all of us, the collective us, need to understand that somehow. So like, have you guys
We
like
just
what do
need.
you guys basically? I guess what do you
We
guys
just.
meditation and psychedelics and all that. Let's talk about that now.
I think we
Right
should
in.
just put DMT in the water supply.
Oh, you've done DMT?
Yeah.
Oh my god. So is that should I?
It's a good meme joke.
I had
That
an
was a meme
opportunity
joke.
I took them for granted and I missed them. So there's a lesson there. But I've done a lot of other psychedelics, and they're key. I feel like
Mushrooms.
I mean, yeah. So I like I always understood human entity and our relationship to nature and how what we were doing to nature. I mean, like where did you guys? I guess where did you guys really start thinking about it? I'm kind of curious. As the two other Domingos, like where Doomigos? My bad, Doomigos. Um, When did you guys start thinking about it? Because I remember being a kid and having like coloring books with endangered species and shit, and being like, "Oh well, if humans
Hmm.
don't stop, species is gonna go extinct," and all that. And
Yep.
are we all that generation, where we're like that
I
kind
had
of
the
like
zoo books.
smoke, and then at the same time, just having some experience with nature and seeing like the devastation around you at the same time. Because I grew up in outside of Cleveland. Our river caught on fire. That's it's started the environmental product. The start of the EPA. So I've seen that type of industrial devastation, and then the leftovers. Like because I grew up, Ford and a lot of industries moved to Mexico as during the NAFTA in the '90s, and like you just see these gutted industrial fields looking like some shit, like a backdrop of Fallout, probably. Like
Hmm.
so, yeah. I mean, what was your environmental experience in the '90s for the two of you? I guess is the question.
Growing up around a lot of industry, like we had the Caterpillar factory here in my town,
Uh,
and
okay. They're huge. I think don't they get contracts in Israel too? They're all over, man. They like
yeah.
Caterpillar is not they just make tractors, but for just tractor, pretty
They
niche.
don't just make tractors; they make excavators, front end loaders. They make all sorts of shit. They make diesel engines for semi trucks. There's a big ass factory, and they just closed it down a few years ago. Like maybe like I want to say like 5 or 10 years ago. So all those jobs go bye
Yeah.
bye.
Okay, so that's a lot more recent than NAFTA. Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I
Like they
guess.
built an entire subdivision for all the people that worked there at Caterpillar and at Allied Metals and all these other places around here.
Justin, what's up?
Yeah, so my, I guess, experience growing up on the East Coast was like entirely industrial. I didn't live in a setting that was, I could say, quote unquote, green until I was like 12 or 13. So it was very much everything was cement. Like there were parks, but you had to go somewhere to get to the parks. There wasn't
Yep,
nature. So I kind of
that's how
grew
it
up
is
with
around here.
I grew up with like this disconnect to nature that I had to kind of relearn my attachment to, and I think I got a closeness to it because of that. A lot of my time in high school and college, I would just like go wandering down trails. In my back when we had like free time, back when I was a teenager,
Yep.
do a kind of stuff like that, like a lot of wandering through nature and spiritually. I don't really like to put an ism or I see word behind beliefs about spirituality, but I guess I could consider myself agnostic because I looked a lot about the aspects of nature, like with regards to plant types and soil types and animals' relations to each other, and biome relations, and different data collected by field specialists, because those kind of people that devote all their time, for example, to savanna or grassland observations, they know all of the wildlife. They know the different birds. They know the grasses. They know the seasonal rains. and they've recognized the changes over time and how abrupt they've been in the last half a century, let's say.
Caterpillar Inc. said on Friday it will shut its Aurora, Illinois plant, costing about 800 employees their jobs as the world's largest construction and mining equipment maker shifts production. What are they shifting it to? And what do you guys think is the next thing that is going to employ people?
That's a good question. Thank you
Well,
to Drew for putting that in the chat.
there is a bit of controversy surrounding the brand, for example, because they make those armored bulldozers that
Yep.
people use in the West Bank to demolish houses. So the
Right.
the hit Caterpillar could be taking could have a lot to do with divestment.
That's true. I think white people are underestimating how much like non-white, but especially anyone from kind of the Middle East, sees what's going on in Israel and just yeah, that's a lot of people in the world. And guess what? Yeah, they're not all living in the mountains like I don't know, 12th century Taliban or some shit. Like, yo, this Americans are crazy. I'm telling you, it's the boomer ethos, like the boomer suburban ethos. So yeah, I mean, so I grew up like basically the town I grew up in was like a suburb of Cleveland, and it basically went from farm town to like totally pimped out suburb, modern suburb by
Hmm.
the time I like grew up and left. Like so, and I grew up with like a single mom, and so like part of what she like the only
Same.
shit she do is go, walk in the woods, go to like nature hikes, nature center and shit, and it's like
Smoke
yeah,
a bowl and go on a forest adventure.
yeah, and then like, yeah, as I got older, I started getting into weed. I was like, hell yeah, dude, I like love the fucking still,
Yep.
like 2 days ago I was walking in the woods, like yeah, it's nature and just partying down, like it's one of the great things that really connect. Like yeah, the other day I rode 30 miles. I went back up, where I'm from around Ohio, just right outside of Cleveland. Rode 30 miles through this metro park, just straight through the woods. Just there's you don't really need shit, dude. I had some alcohol, some weed, some water, glass bottle, like and a bike, some wheels. Like I
Don't
don't
you
know,
find
man.
that interesting that there's
And this connection to
I
nature,
read,
so much
I read
there.
a story about this guy who he biked from country to country in Europe, and he just had a backpack, and he found weed in every country he went to, and he just had this minimalist lifestyle. And it's just very interesting that a lot of people that smoke weed are kind of more in touch with the nature side of things. They're less materialistic, give or
Yeah,
take.
I feel like that's key. Like, and it's. I mean,
Hmm.
uh, I remember hearing about. I mean, this was psychology in like the early 2000s or something. But about what are they called? The experiments where they have people electrocute people, were the Milgram experiments.
Milgram.
Milgram experiments. Yes.
So like they did versions of those with people on alcohol and weed and things like that. And of course, the ones with alcohol, they electrocuted them to death. And then but with weed, they were more compassionate. We're more like no, and more like kind of rebellious. Like we're like no, I'm not. Why do you have me electrocuting this person, man? Like it's real. You see it, and I mean, there's some, and this is key to like the reorganization of life that's necessary that I think gets missed a lot of the time. And because it gets looked down on, because it's just like, oh, it's some kind of hippie drug abuse, and it's like there's nothing there. But it's on some levels, that's like I think meditation is important. Like I've been doing a lot more meditation since like 2019, and but I also think I would have never got to the same level at all, or like experientially, without having psychedelics in the first place. Like it's just like it's like Huxley said, like knocks open the doors of perceptions in ways that like you
Hmm.
don't appreciate when you first read the book, I guess. But psychedelics were psychedelics key for any of your like ecological or like because I've had whole trips. Oh my god, I don't remember what it was. Holy shit, maybe someone in the comments will know. So I took some acid. This is probably like a little over a decade-ish ago, and on some strong acid, and some friend threw on some old cartoon movie, but it was like a train of like extinctions and all these like the dinosaurs going extinct, and it was this whole, and it was super trippy, and like it was kind of like Fantasia or something. Was that what it's called? But not at all.
Land
It was
Before Time.
like it wasn't Land Before Time. No, it wasn't. It wasn't just dinosaurs. It
No.
was literally like no, it was like a psychedelic, like serious adult movie. This wasn't for kids.
Oh,
But it was
well.
the same style. But it was an old movie. Like it was just like it was.
Hmm.
Oh my god! Oh, if I could ever, actually, I'm gonna find out what that is. But I mean,
Google knows.
so anyway, like psychedelics, like what is the key for you, Justin? Do you do psychedelic? Have you done?
So my
Like,
psychedelic experience has been mainly oriented around college, and I tripped a little bit, you know. I also had like a sheet of acid that had peyote in it, which was very intense,
hey,
like an
now
all day trip. So
Hmm.
I did have.
Mescaline plus acid. Sounds like a good time.
so this happened. Perfect.
Uh, did Justin just freeze again?
Yeah. You gotta just having an acid flashback. It's over. It's over for him.
Oh, everybody
Oh,
knows to
shit.
go back out, come back in. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
just
yes.
breathe.
Well,
Everything.
while we wait for him to come back, I've got a comment that I could read then. Scott, employment, humanoid robots are improving at an exponential rate. So everybody was involved in this. And then Steven said AI and robotics are going to ravage the labor force in the US, China, and other nations that can afford to employ it. And then Melanie said, this is going to give you a lot of food for thought. They're trying to turn our country into a tech country, meaning keyboard
Yep.
warriors, but there's actual physical jobs that need to be worked in order for society to run. Take it away, guys. I'm out.
Sick on peyote.
I
That's
mean,
how you're.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah. I mean, it seems obvious. Like they're trying to get rid of most jobs, and a lot of them they'll be able to.
Hmm.
But I think AI is overhyped. I think before AI really reaches that potential, will completely collapse the society. But they'll try to pair off the workers. That's how they'll do it. A
Yep.
slice at a time. And if the working class doesn't stand together, then it's steamrolled.
Right. We need automation to free humans from labor, not to enrich the ruling class.
Well, it's like a control mechanism, cutting. I saw so many different people that I didn't even think about could lose their jobs from AI were having their jobs put at risk. And I'm not really a huge proponent of it because a lot of it is based off of human intelligence and not all of it is accurate. So it's got this whole model that is like 80% instead of 100%. Even with some of the prompts I've read back when AI started, you heard about kids using it for their homework and stuff.
Hmm.
The prompts I read, you could tell, I can tell on the internet when I see 15 to 20 paragraphs and they sound a certain way. Okay, this is an AI reading by like the fifth or
Yep.
sixth paragraph. So and my problem today is I still see people sharing images and not knowing that they're AI. And there's a lot of
Yep.
tells in the corners, like hands,
The
teeth.
fingers,
Yeah. And like the
fingers, teeth, eyes.
crown molding and stuff will have all
Hmm.
inscriptions on it. It won't look like actual molding. So it's deceptive. I don't necessarily think it's good. So I'm kind of anti AI for as a young
Same.
person.
I mean, it's inevitable though. Like, I mean, you gotta be real. Like it's
Of course,
what it's
but
gonna be. It's kind of inevitable because of capitalism, because of politics.
we are
So
the doomers that revolt against our specific. I don't know what adjective you want to use. Shit, we don't like.
I have a really great comment I want to add to this for you guys. Donald James. Hello, Donald. It will. So we're fucked. That's why advanced technology can't coexist with capitalism. We need a pure socialist government so we can exist with technology, or they don't give a. So, how do you guys feel about Donald's comment? Because I know how he feels, but How do you feel?
Do you want me
I
to
mean,
speak on that, Chris?
technology is what got us into this mess in the first place, isn't it?
So when you talk about the ism, obviously socialism probably would be working better than capitalism with regards to the rich driving us to our dooms faster and faster every month. But like you said, the technology thing, I get worried about a lot of newer technology, a lot of stuff that's considered renewable has parts and oil and non-renewable materials in it that have to be continuously replaced. Like we could have the electric car conversation where, eventually it'll be sustainable and eventually mining all the minerals will be sustainable, but the water we're going to use to get to that eventual point does not justify it, in my opinion, because that water
Right.
could be going to communities that are, people are having famine, for example.
Like Flint, 10 years on, and they still don't have clean water.
Well, I heard on one of the radio generic stations that they're changing all this. Billions of dollars are going into changing lead pipes in American infrastructure. Why in 2024 are we changing lead pipes?
Why do we even still have lead pipes? Didn't the Romans
That's my
figure out
point.
that lead
Like,
fucks your shit up?
Dude, one of my good friends
definitely seemed intentional. Like,
grew up right outside of Cleveland. Kid has lead poisoning from the lead pipes in his house. Like this is it's a
where
industrial age.
I went to a local college, and halfway through my tenure for my bachelor's degree, they shut off the water fountains because they had to replace them because they tested too much lead in the water fountains. I'm like, we've been drinking these fountains
Jesus
for
Christ.
5-6 semesters. Like, cool, man. Like,
I mean, I just don't think so. Like, I think on some level, pure socialism, if you're talking about pure socialism, that's like, what the fuck is pure socialism? I don't know. Like, people get caught up on isms and ideas. And at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, we have to get rid of capitalism, no question. But like, we also need to like define more of like what modern capitalism is. It's the stock market. Like, we need to ban this freaking stock market. Like, I was saying this earlier. I don't know if it was before the show, but like it's key. Like, we have to get rid of it. Like, investment, all for the most part, has to stop being a thing. And yet, when people want to act like it's the American dream nowadays. Like, oh yeah, because the rich look down on work. They look down on the working class. If you're working for money, you're never gonna stop working for money till the day you die. But you got to invest that. Then you got to have a Ponzi scheme that's going to go up eternally. And if you get the government back in your Ponzi scheme, then guess what? Now you got a modern civilization, and it's all fine until the planet goes belly up. And like, we're fucking locked in this insanity. And yeah, so capitalism has to end. It's just going to demand infinite growth, and it's one tiny pale blue dot. It can't supply infinity. It's the only one we got too. It's so crazy. And Elon Musk blows my mind. Like, what are these people fucking thinking? He could try to save the world at least, but like these people are in a position to really do a lot them damn selves. And yet this is what they freaking do. He's like a high schooler. Like, Jesus Christ, I was less insecure in junior high than this motherfucker is as the richest person on earth. What the fuck is going on?
Are we trying to save ourselves or save the ecosystems? Is one comment.
great question.
That
Well,
is a good question.
I think obviously we're trying to save ourselves, but we're not. That doesn't yield saving ecosystems. I feel like we should just let
Right.
the ecosystems be saved. And
Let's
we
talk.
can,
So what do you think?
we
Yeah,
can
do
have
you guys think humanity offers something like unique in the animal kingdom in the kingdom of life? Because that's kind of what this gets down to, isn't it? Like, is our
we're better at killing everything absolutely as fast as possible. Yes,
but we're also better at metal,
you
right?
can't see any. If you could go back in books from 20,000 years ago before we wrote books, there's no animals that would have wiped out every species as fast as humans. Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely something different about us, and I don't mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
But I'm asking, is it only bad? I mean, of course,
Maybe not only, but it seems to be predominantly, right, with how things have been going.
Right.
Like, I'm a big
Maybe
advocate for
Like if humanity went, basically,
but
I
it's like,
guess the question is, if humanity went like blink tonight, and was just gone, do you
well,
think
that brings up a
would have
relevant
lost,
news
say
article
that there was
about
no other habitable planet? Like, would the universe have lost something?
that brings up a relevant news article about how aerosol masking reduction has been linked to an increase in Earth's energy imbalance. So there's a
hmm
lot of truth to the whole turn off civilization. It's going to get hotter. There's truth to that.
Yep.
There's scientific backing more and more every year. It's not going away. So we have to be careful about what we do if we're going to quote unquote try to fix things. Because us, for lack of a better word, we've been fucking things up trying to fix them. We're not making it
Yep.
better. We're getting the mop and spreading it farther, not cleaning it up.
Well, that's because we got a bunch of people selling mops in charge of the cleanup policy.
Yeah, but like think about the words in charge, right? That in itself dooms us. You know what I mean? When we're talking about rulers, like now I'm dealing more with anarchism, but like, you know what I mean? There are people that
hmm
advocate environmental anarchism. Not that I do, but I do. But
I do.
Well, I mean, we should talk about it because I used to, but now I honestly I think the main difference is like there's just too many people. The difference that I see there's too many people to be this crowded to have some kind of anarchism. But you need to have that instinct and that kind of like background. And at the end of the day, America does. I guess that's probably what brought us together was American anarchism. Even though I'm not an anarchist anymore, I wouldn't subscribe to it. Long term. We need to. It'd be great if we just can culturally develop ourselves as a species to the point where we don't fucking need a government to tell us to not be fucking psychopaths and assholes. But at the end of the day, maybe there will always be some need. Maybe there was some genetic defect percentage that's going to result in some amount of sociopaths and psychopaths no matter what we do culturally, but we can always try to minimize that and minimize government. But at the same time, how are you going to deal with one of the big things that got me was always paying attention to climate change and ecological collapse is how the fuck do you rein in industry if you don't have government is the only weapon that can fight industry, and that's why industry takes it over. So it's like if we're
Yep.
not gonna, and even as when I was an anarchist, it's like you have to engage with it. Like you can't ignore the 800-pound gorilla tearing apart your planet, and you're just kind of holding the white flag torn apart by a 800-pound gorilla that's gonna tear apart the planet.
I would let Brett go first if you wanted to say anything, but I had a couple of things that I definitely would respond to that notion. But Brett, if you had anything to say.
Well, I mean, you got industry buying government, right? So how do we get rid of industry? Because people need jobs, don't they? So I don't really know how to go about that. Like, which do you take out first? Do you take out industry first? Do you take out the government first?
We need to turn our economy into a recyclable, a circular economy, where on some level everything gets either recycled or we stop doing it, because especially if we're going to have 8 billion people, we need economists who will come to terms with things like this, and we don't have that because right now they're just all corrupt, crazy death cult. We're all just basically class. So but we need an
going off
understanding
of a
level to say like yes, we can do this or we can't do this, or like I mean, like eating animals is a perfect thing. Like the rich world has to reduce the rich world has to reduce our consumption of animals, animal agriculture, meat, dairy, by something like 70 to 90% to have any chance of staying below 2 degrees Celsius. So this was science 10 years ago. This is what really started the end of the world party. But so we know that, but there's no climate policy in line with that. I mean, Biden's shilling some agricultural subsidies for big meat, shilling some fake climate friendly beef shit. Like it's all bullshit, and it's so obvious. Naked bullshit, and this is supposed to be the lesser evil. Like, this is the best we can hope for. Like, it's crazy.
Somebody said
This
that slavery is great. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
so going back to the anarchist point very briefly, every time you see a group of people in a community in a town that's been destroyed by a tornado or has been leveled by a hurricane, those people get together and they start, looking for the people that are hurt, getting them towards emergency services, getting them food and water. Those are all things that are by and large orchestrated without government sometimes, because you've all been made aware of FEMA's track record before and after New Orleans. So it's like
Yep.
the people already do coagulate, and it's just a matter of organizing the masses and putting a direction and purpose behind them. And that's a lot of what the socialists in the college I went to, a lot of the 20 somethings have been putting in my ear, is organizing the masses around, like the encampments, for example, like taking that energy and distributing out into the working class. How can different advocates for every group of people working advocate for that change? Just as one example. But and that's what I mean about, and socialism and anarchism are actually a lot more similar than I think people make them out to be, in my opinion, personally.
Mm-hmm.
With regards to what you were saying about industry,
I think
Brett hit the nail on the head when he was talking about the fact that we have a system where something called a PAC exists, where billionaires could funnel money to different politicians on the federal level, state senate level, regional level, township level. I have personally knew somebody my age that ran for office in a township in New Jersey and lost to somebody that was 20, 30 years older with money. I have regional, local experiences of politics and getting quote unquote bought out by the other side. So it's like that system, it's only going to prop up people like the Democrats we've seen for presidents that still are in line with the military industrial complex, still in line with, signing off on Green New Deals that don't mean jack shit. Like, the only people you're going to see in this system get put up as the quote unquote opposition are jokes. It needs to be entirely redone.
They need votes. Like, look, we know how the system works. Here's the thing: is we know how the system. This is like a machine. Look at this like an engineering problem. We know how the machine works. These motherfuckers need votes within imaginary lines, and so we got to think about that. Yes, okay, some of them are doomed, but like not all of them are. Like my state house rep, for one, is badass, a badass progressive. She's Palestinian. Like, yo, like. She showed up for Cop City. She showed up at, I asked her to come out to the Cop City, the ground where they leveled the forest. And she came out. She was one of the first. She was the first person actually to speak against Cop City and the city council. Be like, and I've helped flip districts where, yeah, everyone said it's hopeless. The thing is, you get 15 people on the ground, dedicated, putting a lot of time in, knocking a lot of doors, talking to people really like who are just the right people to do it for the right candidate at the right time in the right place. Like, you can flip there's, I feel like it's a level of fatalism in a lot of anarchism and cynicism that ultimately feeds right wing and corruption domination of, both parties, and feeds the same, this fucking corrupting and right wing and fucked up fascist aspect of the Democratic Party too. Like, every time someone gives up and says, fuck it, they get their other candidate is just, breezes through the primary. And the primaries are the real elections. This is why when everyone's worried about, oh, Trump versus Biden, I'm like, dude, the real elections are the primaries. And the primaries, they're apparently they've been over for 2 years for the president.
Primaries aren't even a thing now because they can choose
they are
to just
only important election. Still, we know the rules. This is why.
So I think the fundamental philosophical difference between you and I is that I agree that we should be protesting and working towards social change, but I don't do it because I think it's going to save anything. I do it because it's just the right fucking thing to do. I'm not doing it because I think we're not going to die in a handful of decades.
Hey, now, I thought you said we had to
advocate for better people's rights, and that's what's a little frustrating to me about, we're doing this because we're trying to save everything. It's just like a comment just went by that we missed about someone said, I don't think we're going to have the political will, WASF, like we were so fucked. And it's like, I get that it's harder for younger people to accept dying young, but I fell asleep at the wheel at 19 and I almost died in a car accident. So once I had that brush with mortality, I don't take things for granted. I don't take days for granted. Even my days off, I'll smoke and do a lot of research because a jet plane could crash into somebody's house at any time. So for me, it's
on
just
some Donnie Darko shit.
I agree with a lot of the younger people and what they're doing. even if I don't agree, I still support them. I'll even say that. But I don't do it under the guise that we're gonna like magically find some sort of solution to all this stuff I research.
There's the thing is there's no magical solution like this. The thing is the magical solution we already know about. And it's just like we call it degrowth, and people demonize it and it's a buzzword, whatever, but it is what it is. We need to stop building all this shit the shit if we're going to keep creating shit, we need to recycle it. At the end of the day, it either needs to be broken down by us on a time scale that matters, or broken down by the planet on a time scale that matters, or broken down by us and recycled and like dealt with. Like we can't keep expand. It's just a basic thing. Like we're literally on a tiny dot, and now it's what percent plastic, like everywhere. You go to the remote island on the
About
The beaches
50%.
are more than. Did you know that the beaches are more than 50% plastic?
So someone asked earlier, when just out of curiosity, let's just spitball some numbers here.
I think the weather destruction will force
Well,
economic. Social,
yeah.
depends where you are.
will
I always say that like depends if you live in a country in Africa or Southeast Asia, it's right there, or the Middle East. Like
Yep.
that's why I pay
I still
so
think
much.
about a third of Pakistan getting flooded.
Yeah, that's why I pay so much attention to extreme weather events because do you remember Hurricane Harvey? It
Hmm.
was like 8 years ago. That was a storm that got stuck in a jet stream loop where it just rained on Houston for weeks.
Oh yeah.
And there are
Oh,
still people
I remember that. Look up the pictures
economically.
of
You could. It's like throwing a giant stone into a pond, right? The ripple effects go out and they come back. Now imagine before the pond settled, you kept throwing bigger stones more frequently. It's just going to keep rocking the surface more and more, and that's when people talk about the social and economic ramifications. That's why I think macroeconomics and the sociology aspect is so important because this capitalist system isn't predicated on sustainability. It's predicated on having the global
Externalities.
South, like us in the West being able to, and I mean billionaires, not us three or anyone watching this, being able to just extract resources from the global South at a cheap price. And now these quote unquote
and that's
other
key.
adversaries are doing it, and now we're having this global conflict through proxy wars because our hegemony is threatened, and that's the real quiet part out loud about collapse.
There.
That's the one word that radicalized me in my economics class. Externalities. You guys know what externalities are, don't you?
Yeah, so this makes me question, like, I'm curious, how much do you guys think we should, like, as people like us, we know who we're like, we're working class Americans from the Midwest-ish, the 90s Midwest-ish, we've seen different levels of like that early stage collapse. How much do you think we should blame ourselves though in the global game of like ecological exploitation? And because you just said like the billionaires are extracting it all, and they are extracting the most of it. Like the wealth inequality is insane. The amount of resources the rich use, people don't understand. The difference is fucking insane. Inequality is so much greater than it's ever been. Like our tiny ape minds literally can't comprehend it. But like, how much do you think we are to blame? I mean, in the rich world, whatever, as I guess, yeah, just as a general, how much do you think we're to blame as Americans sitting here, as us three, Doomigos? How much do you blame yourself?
Mm,
When you, like,
I mean, I don't have a private jet. I don't have a Bugatti. I don't have 3
you
vacation homes.
guys eat meat and dairy though, right? I'm the only vegan on here.
So
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
dude! This is why I started the end of the world party. This is
there's
perfect.
I tried going vegan. It didn't work out so well for me.
Oh man, people say that.
so
It didn't
there's
work
a
out well for
long
me at first either. I just ate potato chips, dude. But guess what? I worked through it, man. You can work through it, dude. And then guess what? Like now I live. I mean, Chinese people have been doing this for 2,000 years. Like I've been, I read Zen poetry about motherfucker. I'm like, damn, we're eating the same meal as you were eating 600 BC. Like you can make the shit taste good. It's key. Otherwise, see, we're not going to make it. But anyway, all right. But this is what I'm saying is like, how much are we to blame? So this is the way I most blame us three as the Doomigos. Because I ate meat for a long time. I ate meat for like 23, 24 years of my life. I didn't eat dairy because I was born allergic to milk. So so I don't count that as like anything I did. That was a default exemption, but you know. So like our consumption though, like the shit we consume, the electricity we use, and our complicity in that, as much as it could be 100% renewable. I think it could be 100% renewable, but it's not, and it's kind of our fault as citizens that it's not, because we haven't kept our government in line. And I know that we're inheriting this as our generation, so that's why I'm asking you, like, this isn't the generation before us, because those motherfuckers are guilty as shit. And I mean, it is what it is. But like as like personal individuals, how much do you like feel guilty about how our consumption is, fueling global exploitation and destroying the planet? It is.
Well, if you would like a response, I can provide one. That being said,
I was gonna say, I know I'm guilty as shit, but I try to consume as little as possible.
like
Like
Brett
I'm
said,
not out there buying the latest iPhone every year.
none of us, yeah,
I'm still on a Galaxy S10.
Nobody has a private jet, and we're not taking a lot of flights. We're obviously all quote unquote first worlders. There's a certain,
Yeah.
guilt and a certain, I guess, responsibility you can take. But I try not even to blame the generation above us or the generation above them, because, a lot of different professors have talked about how long ago, like at what point in agriculture and industrial civilization did we get past that tipping point and the overshoot point where we're functionally extinct, where we may not be extinct, but when a species only has one male and they can't procreate, they're functionally extinct. When a species has a finite amount of resources, I'll plug a book really quickly. It's called Changing Precipitation Regimes and Terrestrial Ecosystems, edited by Jake F. Welton and Guy McPherson. And this book talks about the various types of soils and different types of plants that work in those soils, the fluctuation of rain, which root systems hold them. And when you really start, and if you've ever heard about Dr. Sid Smith, who does the How to Enjoy the End of the World series, he does a lot of work and research on soil and the importance and the difference between soil and dirt, and how nutrient deficient a lot of our cropland is, to the point where we have all these artificial fertilizers that we're pumping it. So even if we were to quote unquote step away from capitalism, stop growing food at the supermarket, our general soil is, you might be able to grow food, but Sandy could probably vouch for this, that it's getting more and more difficult to grow in a garden different trees depending on frosts and rain and precipitation fluctuations. And so even going the organic off-grid route, it's not going to be sustainable in a collapsing jet stream.
Yes, you're right, because I'm always worried about the trees.
Man, I don't get
if you wanted to jump in on that, I definitely want to hear about it, because we've had issues in my neighborhood where certain trees are not getting leaves because of it was too hot early, or there was a bad frost, and that there hasn't been enough rain. So it seems like certain species are doing worse than others.
We literally have like 3 falls a year here in the South. Like it's just wild. Though there's a fall in the summer, and then there's one in late summer, and then there's normal fall.
We've always got the false spring here.
I have a couple of questions here, if you want to talk about it. Brett, this might be for you. What do you young people think about nuclear power plants and the danger they pose as climate breakdown continues? Brett, can you take that one?
Oh shit. Well, nuclear power plants are vulnerable to extreme weather events, just like pretty much any other industrial installation that humans have built. Like, I don't know if anybody saw that footage of the dash cam, and I think, what was it, a tornado in Kansas completely leveled an entire warehouse. Like, I forget what kind of warehouse it was, like Dollar General or something, but you see the tornado go through on the dash cam, and like there's a warehouse there, and 5 seconds later it's gone. So, I mean, thing with nuclear power plants is they need power. Like they've got all this spent fuel that they got to keep cool, and if you don't have cool water circulating in that swimming pool, then you risk a meltdown, and
Well,
you risk poisoning the landscape for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years. Like I know everybody's heard of Chernobyl and the human exclusion zone around that, and everybody knows about Fukushima and how there was a big evacuation after that, and that's still ongoing. They're still cleaning those messes up to this day, and they'll be cleaning them up for the next 10,000 years if humans are still around. So I think we should probably start shutting them down like Germany did before we,
Fukushima was a big
have more
inflection.
Fukushimas.
That was a big inflection point to my doomerism. Was
Same.
that tsunami and watching that happen, seeing the
Yup.
radiation go across the Pacific, and you've heard about Fukushima babies and
Mm-hmm.
different defects in the wildlife and the sea creatures in the Pacific, and it's
Yep.
just, so
That's
when
why
you
Kevin
talked
Blanche
about,
calls it the Great Pacific Genocide.
when you talked about the cool waters, there's already been reports where France, for example, had to shut certain nuclear plants because the rivers were too hot. The cooling
Yep.
water that was supposed to come in. So they're ticking time bombs depending on where they are
Mm-hmm.
because
Literally.
of the ecological crisis.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem. Like,
Tick
and now
tock, Diablo Canyon clock.
I've asked so
What was
many
that question?
pros about it. Like, would it? The thing is, most of them are water cooled, and even the ones, you'll point that out, and people point to one in Arizona, I think, that's wastewater cooled, which is a great fucking idea, but it only supplies like
Yeah.
I don't know, like 10 or 20% of their cooling or some shit like that. So it's like, look, this
Mm-hmm.
isn't a solution, and you build these things on water, near bodies of water, before their coolness, when you know it's all warming. And you know that warming is going to
Yep.
create, rising levels and more drastic up and down levels depending on where you are, and more drought. And it's like this has already been a problem. Like, like I'm in Georgia, where we're built the only nuclear plant that's been under fucking construction for I don't know how many decades. But
Yeah, Vogel.
yeah. So
I've been following Vogel for a while.
reactors are online now, 10 years and like $5 billion late, but.
Yep.
One of the latest delays I remember last year was because of flooding at like the second reactor there. But I was like, I don't know what the fuck happened because I know I'm right here. So like, but not. I'm uncomfortably close, I guess. But I'm not too worried about. The thing is, I'm not. Anyways, I start reading comments. Like, I'm in a weird position. I think like we shouldn't shut down nuclear prematurely because it's such a massive energy source, and we should research it. But at the same time, like relying on it as a future energy source is crazy. But it's like, yeah, it's
Right.
imperfect.
We don't have the uranium reserves for it.
We're at the point where it's too late. Like we just like local nuclear. The reality is local nuclear like radioactive incident is way less of a risk than the whole global ecological climatological collapse is at this point. Like there's way more death. We already know every day. Like the radioactivity is at this point worth it at this point. Like, but and we should keep working on it, but we shouldn't bet on it at all. And the thing is, like, I think technology can play a role, but acting like it's going to be a panacea is crazy, and that's the problem. But that's what capitalism wants to do because all these capitalists they're just Ponzi scheme architects. Really, like that's
Mm-hmm.
what they fucking know how to do. Is I'm the biggest fucking genius. This is how we're going to solve all the world's problems. Give me all your money, and then they fucking now Elon Musk is. It's funny seeing him get old. I'm like, bro, you realize now you're not going to see Mars. You're just going to die here on Earth. As pathetic as it is, as pathetic as you are, and your whole dreams of all of this shit. Like, what are you fucking
What do you
doing?
think about Bill Gates building nuclear power plants? He wants
doesn't
to
do
build that one in Kemper, Wyoming.
Ah,
Scott, I can tell you're not too thrilled about that Twitter censure.
yeah, I know. I've been, yeah, banned on Twitter again. The end of the world party clean.
That's why he's Musk ranting.
Voting for Twitter.
because of the Twitter thing.
I don't even remember what it was
Well,
this time.
thank you.
This time it was again bullshit. Like there's no free speech anywhere, and that's the craziest thing. Do you guys want to talk about social media? How long have you guys been? Do you guys do much like like activism, like in in meat space shit? Do you guys do online shit?
Not
How
really.
long are you doing online
I
stuff?
post a lot of memes on Instagram, but that's about it.
You've been into memes. You
I
knew
miss
what memes were
MySpace.
before me. You know the history of memes, Brett. You're
Yeah,
like, what's your
I'm a
view
meme
of
lord.
what's dude? What's your view of what like how politics and of course in in respect to environmentalism and climate and everything, how social media has changed and how that influences politics and all the politics around all this shit. Because to me, that's a fundamental driver in a democracy. Like it's been key, and I know you
Pretty
guys are
much, yeah. It's the new
anarchists.
public square. At least it used to be, before it started getting censored and shit. It was the new public square for a while. Like I miss MySpace, dude. I don't know about you guys, but Tom gave us everything and we abandoned him. We had free speech, we had customizable
President,
profiles, we even had music on our profiles, and we gave that all up for
wherever you are.
Facebook.
Let's do does anyone have a Tom signal? If we need to send out a Tom signal, ask him to run for president as an independent write-in candidate election in 2024 for the
I'm
United
abandoning the.
States president. Like this is
Now,
our
see,
best.
millennials already have a candidate for president, Afro Man.
I'll fucking take it, dude. Afro man at this point, fuck
Afro
yeah.
Man for president.
Right in, I'll do it.
Great.
I'm voting. I'm not voting for Biden or Trump. So I'm like,
I'm voting for Afro Man.
who else we got? All right, there you go. I think Chelsea.
Are we starting the campaign presently?
No, he's been running. Like,
Hold on, I asked this question earlier. Real quick.
He's actually running. Wow.
Top of your head, give us a number real quick. Justin, what year will climate collapse? Or what year will civilization collapse? I mean,
Before 2030, it'll start getting real ugly.
2030. Brett, what year will civilization collapse?
it's already collapsing. It's already getting ugly.
Give us a number. Give
It's
us a
just
number.
a slow thing.
Give us
Collapse
a
is
number.
not an event. It's a process.
Give us a
The
number.
Roman
Brett.
Empire took 250 years to collapse.
And okay, dude, people want a number.
We never
Tomorrow.
prognosticate here.
Okay, I'm gonna say 20.
Growth was a little. It said 2040. I
said
think that would be a miracle for us young people because we get to
2014 is the end.
poisoned by microplastics for
2014.
20 more years.
Just to be clear, 2014. I said 2014.
2014. Yeah, that's when it personally collapsed for me.
See? Ding, ding,
That's
ding.
great.
I'm
All
ready
right,
for
guys. I'm looking for some comments and questions. And let's see.
I like what Michael Dowd said. Collapse now and avoid the rush.
Honestly, yeah. That's like on some level, like I remember when Trump was first elected last time, a lot of people were all of a sudden like, "Oh my God!" People called me pessimist and nihilist and all this shit. We're like, "Oh, listen, oh man, you actually knew what you were talking about and shit." And then all of a sudden Biden gets elected, and the motherfuckers forget. I'm like, dude, nothing's changed. Nothing's fucking changed.
Yep, the amnesia is real.
United States amnesia is no joke. Holy shit.
It's the United States of advertising.
Yeah,
We live on the
exactly.
third mall from the sun.
Malls were even cool compared to now. That's the crazy thing. That's how fast collapse is. It's like, dude, we thought malls were shit. Oh, dude,
Yeah.
we didn't got a mall to hang out in, dude.
Now we get to go explore abandoned malls before they tear them down to put up apartments.
You're getting pepper sprayed by mall security because they had done shit for weeks. Mall's been closed for 10 years.
Do you guys like exploring abandoned buildings at all?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
shading photography them too, photographing.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's good to get a little time capsule of things before they all go away.
Right.
Yeah, that's the whole issue is like people don't understand like the time warps everything. And it's like, but we should be able to understand that as like ape like us, right? But people apparently don't like because climate is like, 30-year time periods. Can't even understand that, much less like biological. What was that? Yo, oh my god! See, I couldn't share this shit because I'm banned on Twitter. What was? Someone shared this hilarious graphic. Jordan Peterson. You guys saw his? I don't know, he made some stupid ass post.
No, I didn't.
And this is their whole fucking.
Eyes glaze over when people like that are mentioned.
It's like over 4.5 billion years, the climate's changed so much. Actually, this is why I got banned. This is why I got banned from Twitter. This is why the end of the World Party 2, EEOTWP2 got banned from Twitter, was because someone was saying, oh, the climate's changed so much over 4 billion years, we'll be fine. I was like, okay, well then go throw yourself into magma and dude, tell me about how, any kind of climate fine, because this is one of the time frames you're talking about, right? So it's perfectly rational, logical. It's not really a call to violence, but I still got a week-long ban thanks to Elon Musk's free speech edicts. So like,
I got a ban like that for telling someone to drink gasoline because they didn't think fossil fuels were poison.
I've lost so many accounts like this. There is no free speech anymore. Ever since the Occupy days, when Obama had this fucking Gestapo come in, sweep us up with fucking stormtroopers, and then bury that, like in Atlanta, we never had. They erased our encampment. They built a 7-foot fence around it for like 2 years, till the movement was basically dead, and the charges never went forward because they were unconstitutional. And but it was the end of the movement. It's like they know how to work the system, dude. Like we got to learn how to work the system. Anarchists, like all these isms, like. Yeah, we need to be more anarchist. Like anarchism was key to me. Like that was. Yeah, I ran it. Actually, I read the Patterns of Anarchy book. It was like some printed like 1969. I don't even know if it's printed anymore. It's probably like, I don't know. It's gonna be illegal soon. Everybody order on Amazon before it's illegal or somewhere else.
If you can even get it on Amazon.
But it's got all the classic anarchists. Bakunin, Kropotkin, Emma Goldman, every fucking body. And it was really like. My introduction to like the kind of thought, and I was like, okay. But now I realize we are overcrowded. There's just too many people looking everywhere, dude, and everyone wants to do the same shit. And even if it's socialism, then like what? 8 billion people doing the same fucked up shit. Like, dude, we're gonna need 20 fucking planets every century. Like, it's not gonna work. Like on some level, we have to look at what the planet is, and then look at what we are, and be like, scale this on a systemic level. And how do we do that without government? But you need a smart, uncorrupted government, so it's the complete opposite of what the fuck we got now.
What metrics?
And that's the problem with government is.
Okay,
yeah, what did you get to?
I really wanted to get to this one for you guys.
Yeah, go ahead, Sandy.
What metrics do you guys use to define collapse? No electricity, no food, no homes, or war?
All of the above.
Is it happening, I guess, or when, or not when, but is it happening? I know this person, so.
Yeah, I guess that's the biggest problem with putting a date on collapse, is because the world is made up of like 200 different countries, and depending on which country you're in, the date is going to be different for when you have no electricity, no food, because there's already war in, Sudan. Sudan's probably never going to recover from the war that they're facing right now. And people talk about Gaza's going to take 80 years to rebuild. Okay, well, it's never going to be rebuilt. So as collapse further on, more and more places are going to be bombed into not being recognizable. So all of this, like the question said, no food, no electricity, or rolling blackouts could constitute collapse. If we have...
Don't forget no running water.
If it becomes 110 degrees...
I would say we're that kind of collective human promise of like progress. It was finally given up. And I feel like 2014 was the year we got complacent enough. We got silent enough, and that was kind of a pivot point. And it led into 2016, where it's really, I think Bernie Sanders' shit could have changed some shit. If Americans, and Bernie Sanders himself, though, was obviously, a movement to support that shit. And obviously didn't coalesce, and so here we are. I think that was just kind of the 2016 was kind of being like, if you had any dreams of shit getting better, get that shit out of your head. And then
I think
2020 was kind of just the icing on the cake of the. But I think that's I think that's the way to look at it, because yeah, you can look at every country individually, and you can look at big countries. The U.S. collapse has already come to a lot of that's kind of where we all came from, is places of collapse in the United States already. The collapse of our
yeah.
what we would call our economic peak, our empire, and everything. So like we've already seen that from the top, from the very tip top of human civilization, we've seen the collapse coming down, and that's why I say like 2014, like. And it's it's people say it's messed up, narcissistic, or nationalistic, or whatever it is, to focus on the United States' role in human history. But I think that's just leftist bullshit. Honestly, I think we need to get that dogma out of our head. Like what the United States is. We've reshaped the world with our kind of modern digital corporate capitalism, and on the way our military has completely fucking reshaped the world. We've gone from Vietnam to Cuba to wherever the fuck you want in democracy. If we don't like it, dude, if you challenge the corporate status quo over the last 150 years, like we're sending the biggest military this planet's ever seen at you. And like with the infinite check. And it's like, so, y'all, I don't know, turn off the music.
I mean, what other country has ever had 800 military bases around the world?
Exactly. And this is what
Alexander the Great could never.
The small government party, the big government party,
how America, CO2 emissions right now, it's China's leading or this country's leading. But if you add up the cumulative emissions of hundreds of years, none of those other countries are catching America. So you can say that our model,
per capita emissions.
So what is called American exceptionalism is our model. And our model now, other countries that are quote unquote developing or more poor want to replicate that model. They want the same opportunities for all of their people. And that requires...
Everybody wants the American dream.
Cheap, dirty oil, cheap, dirty resources. Right, exactly. And like the American dream wasn't clean. It was not built on clean energy. Mm-hmm. We don't really talk about that either. So it's like... And again, going back to politics, I have a hard time blaming the people for 2016 when the Al Gore thing in Florida happened when we were kids. Like this system was.
Yep, I remember that.
Ever, you could have had 100 million people vote for Bernie Sanders. Some bullshit would have happened.
Yep.
Oh no. Even if there's some wiggle room for actual like electoral votes, fucking bullshit. Like no, there's a limit where. If enough people vote, that was why I always said in the primary, I was like, we need to get, because of electoral fuckery, I was like, we need to get more than a winning vote. Because we need to.
Do you remember when 100,000 people were purged off the ballot in New York?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. I remember all this, man. I was there. I know. This is what I was talking about, though. This is what I'm saying. It's like we need to get enough people to like, yeah.
Well, how do we get enough people when they can just purge 100,000 of them? Like, did you hear about New York? You need a certain amount of signatures.
You don't bother because you can just purge. Just do it. It's so simple to vote. It's not that fucking hard. It's 1 day a year. If you can't vote on the least important day, the least revolutionary day of the motherfucking every 1, 2, 3, 4 year cycle, like you can do it.
I mean, no disrespect at all, but I don't like telling people what to do or how to think.
I'm not telling you to Joe Biden.
Waving your arms mentality at people like, oh, you got to do this. It's going to turn them off. It's going to put them off. They're not going to want to listen to what you have to say.
Doesn't matter.
Well, it does matter because if you expect to get to any of these people, you're going to have to want them to actually get one of your points across. This is like debate 101. Taking emotion away from it is the only way you're going to get to these people that quote unquote are on the other side, or they're not going to reason with you. You have to, even if you completely disagree with their fossil fuel bullshit, you have to at least see where they're coming from so that you can be like, all right, I'm at you. Now let me explain to you how things are different. And that's how I've been getting people out of this whole, like, there are people my age trying to vote for RFK. And I'm like, listen, if you're going to really do the third party thing, you should be voting for Jill Stein. And I don't tell people what to do.
Like, honestly, at this point, like there's no one to vote for. Like I have personally people.
Well, obviously, but
most people like don't, and I wouldn't blame them. Like, I wouldn't blame a lot of people. Like, I'm going to grudgingly vote for people like I'm happy to vote for, but like I, I don't know. This is kind of is not like the thing right now. I don't know. There is no. Yeah, I don't know. At this point, yeah, like who are you the fuck are you gonna go vote for? Like this that's not the issue. You
I
view
already
election
said Afro Man.
and as real things, as things to use view the election as a platform, as a leverage point, but don't act like there's someone to vote for. And then there's oh that's a solution because I wouldn't. I'm voting for someone who's not going to win. I'm telling you that already. Fuck it. Fuck it. All the people who are going to win this election, all two of them.
I think there's a group of people that think the next election is important, and then there's the rest of us that understand things are already locked in.
I'm in
And
the
it's just
second
like
group.
I like pushing back against like I'm a very quote unquote negative person, but I'm also like, oh, I'm all sunshine and roses and moving around like Gumby. So it's like I like pushing it back about against. Oh, you have to be sad to be a doomer. No, you don't. Planetary hospice, saying goodbye to your loved ones and being there for them and being there in their last moments or remembering all their memories doesn't have to be entirely sad. A lot of it can be positive. A lot of it can be beautiful. But like we have to be acceptant. We can't be in denial of our collective death. So it's just that's what's really difficult for people is we're kind of trying to pull them in and they keep fucking clawing away because grief is scary, acceptance is scary, death is scary, and it's like we're facing it. I mean, you could look at the people in World War II or the Korean War. A lot of people have faced existential crisis before, quote unquote, and a young early death as soldiers and combatants. But now, allegedly, we're facing it on a global collective scale, all of us, every age group at once. So that's another angle we don't often talk about the existential crisis of climate change. But how do you tie all these things together in a way that, like, let's say one political candidate or one political party is going to advocate for everybody? It's just, in my head at least, it doesn't seem like a feasible thing that's going to work, but I'm definitely open to options and ideas.
Well, that's the thing. What's the alternative then? Like
Violent revolution.
pretending that, and then what? And then that's like, and then what though? Like that's what I'm saying. It's like,
Yep, that's the big.
Just burn it all down. We'll figure out the rebuilding part later.
Exactly. Like
we'll do it on credit.
The thing is, this is what worries me. This is kind of why I asked about the how guilty do you guys all feel question, is because this feels like the world that we all want. The people I know, my friends, people I love, good people. This feels like me a lot, all of us, to a lot of a degree. It feels like this is the world we want that we have right now, and it, you know, and it feels like we are the architects of it. We are the key support of it. And I've seen people challenge power, and I've seen I've seen people push back power. It's possible. So that's why I don't believe that it's not possible. So on some level, like anarchists brought a lot of my unanarchist thinking, but at the same, it doesn't even come down to any kind of ism. But this, I'm like that. I don't really care about any of that shit anymore. Like debating the philosophy of shit anymore. Everything is way more concrete by what's happening every moment and what's what we're thinking about and how we're analyzing all of this history that's transpiring right now. It's so quick right in front of us. I don't know.
See, the problem with power and giving people authority is that it attracts those dark triad traits, the narcissists, the sociopaths, and the psychopaths.
Know that. We still will say that. People will say that and vote for both the cocksuckers on each fucking side, and then we still end up with the same and so, like, we get that, but we act like we don't. Like we're still captured by the demons that we can identify. I don't know. We like on some level, I'm not an elitist because I really see that like there's more potential in people, even people where I'm like, you motherfucker, but I think there's more potential in people, and I'm like, I really think that degrowth offers more than infinite growth, especially at this point, going forward. But those are the kind of the two questions humanity faces, and fucking degrowth is just on its fucking heels every fucking moment. Yo, I gotta take a piss. I'm gonna be back in like 1 second. Let me know what's going on.
Fucking-
All right.
I was gonna say, Brett, is there anything else you were like on the environmental doom climate aspect of things that you were thinking about talking about?
Mm,
Because like I'm not as
I
much
mean,
of
yeah,
a fan of the
yeah,
politics,
they're,
but
yeah.
so
Politics
like
is like
for people,
so 2008 for me.
yeah, like I know that you guys like
Oh,
the
Sandy
you
wanted
can
to
bring
hear
that
what I
to
had to say about
externalities. Yeah.
externalities. So it's a term from economics. It's basically the costs of doing business that aren't, oh, what the hell is the definition of it? It's like the cost of doing, it's just, that's what it is, the cost of doing business, but it's like, you're not, how do I say this? I'm having a massive brain fart right now. It's like, it's the cost that you don't have to pay. It's like, the way the economic system works is that you privatize the profits and you socialize the losses. And like the externalities, we don't have to worry about those because we don't have to pay those costs. You know, things
Ooh,
like air pollution, that's an externality. Like,
got you.
you know,
Yeah.
air doesn't have a value because it's free, you know. Like under capitalism, a tree has no value until it's cut down to be
Hmm.
cut into wood to build a house.
Unless you can get maple
Like
syrup.
the quote unquote ecosystem services that that tree provides, there's no monetary value set on that, you know.
Hmm. That, and I was going to
Like
ask you
the
about. I know you probably have had tornadoes in your area. Like I just spoke to a friend today
hmm
who lives in Tallahassee, which is the capital of Florida, and
yep.
talking about how Florida State just got wrecked by a tornado, and he was showing me he was okay, but somebody he was friends with had pictures of their house, and their lawn was covered in down trees, and their fence was smashed. And I know you live a lot closer to Tornado Alley than I do, so I'm sure you've had
Well,
something last week with stuff all nearby.
Well, nothing really in my area because the thing about climate change is it's one of the things that's happening is it's moved Tornado Alley south. So like
Hmm.
where we used to get tornadoes up here in northern Illinois, now it's all going down to southern Illinois and Arkansas and Kentucky and Alabama and Mississippi and all that shit. You know, Oklahoma's always been Tornado Alley, but that's, you know, the joke is why is Oklahoma so windy? Because Kansas sucks and Texas blows. But yeah, that's why they're getting tornadoes in Florida now. You know, it used to be Florida, what do you have to worry about hurricanes? But no, now you got to worry about tornadoes in Florida now too. Fuck that shit.
Well,
I'm not moving to Florida when I retire.
well, none of us are retiring, but yes, the
No, yeah,
interesting thing about the
fair point.
Tornado Alley the interesting thing about Tornado Alley is I looked into what you were saying about it shifting, and it's actually two parts. It's the midwestern part, and then there's a southern belt of Tornado Alley called Dixie Alley,
hmm
where
Yep.
the statistically more violent, deadly tornadoes happen in the Alabama area, the Florida Panhandle, around Mississippi and Georgia. So Tornado Alley, both parts of it is shifting both eastward and northward. So, for example,
Yeah.
there's been tornadoes in Delaware and New Jersey, where I live in
Yep.
that area, in Pennsylvania. And even then, when you have hurricanes that spin out these cold hot barriers, they're just breeding grounds for tornadoes. So we'll get
hmm
like a strong hurricane, and 2 or 3 years ago, an F3 tornado hit southern New Jersey for the first time during an outbreak. We've never had a tornado outbreak either, and we had our first F3 in 2021, and I drive through the damage field like almost every day going to work. I just see the flattened trees stripped of their leaves that were killed
Oh, we lost you again, Justin.
during that tornado. And
Oh, there he's back.
okay,
Is it
yeah,
my internet fucking up? Maybe I need to plug my phone in.
it's
No,
just
you're still here, Justin.
Justin's going in and out.
gonna say
The New Jersey internet. Collapse, y'all.
Well, we've
yeah,
been
like,
an hour and a half, an hour and 30 minutes, guys. So it's up
But
to you how long you want to go.
well,
But I
back
remember,
on the subject of tornadoes, I remember my first experience with a tornado was when I was like, God, what was that? I was like probably 5 or something like that. It was like back in the early 90s, like I want to say like 1990, 1992 or something. We had a F5 come through the town south of mine, Plainfield, and it completely ripped Plainfield High School in half. Like leveled the whole thing.
yeah, I was in.
So that was my first experience with a tornado. Like I remember driving around with my dad, looking at all the damage and shit, like all the down power lines and trees and shit. I'm sure I've got a VHS tape of some of the footage around here somewhere.
And it's so much key to like. I was I don't know if it was last year or the year before. I was in Selma, Alabama, and during the celebration of the the walking across the bridge thing, and they had just been hit by a massive tornado. Well, it was like months earlier at that point. It was like 2, 3 months earlier, but there were trees down everywhere. Places were destroyed. They had 2 hotels in the city, and one of them was destroyed by the tornado. So we ended up sleeping in like a weird college room, and so we ended up sleep. We were just all over the city, just sleeping around random places. But
Just squatting.
it was just wild. Yeah, I mean we had like elite. The thing is that the inequality and the racism there was like so like just it's Selma, it's not that changed. So it was, but they changed for the photo shoot. The president was there, so it was like, shot the president
Oh yeah,
there.
got to clean it up when the big wigs come to
Right.
town.
But they didn't even clean it up, was the funny thing. That was the crazy thing. The
Yeah,
president was in town, and the president didn't clean up the fucking town from the hurricane or from the tornadoes 2 or 3 months earlier. I think it might have been like 4 months earlier at that point. It was crazy. I
damn.
was like, and they got a bunch of drone footage of it, and I don't know. That's some documentary. I don't know. I was just working on it, but it was just seeing the way they treat it, seeing the way politicians treat the shit directly. They'll come to it. They'll do their nice fancy. We cleaned up this town. Yeah, that was part of his speech on the fucking bridge while he was, dancing on John Lewis's ghost. Like, it, it was all like, oh, we cleaned up this town. And I was like, dude, we came through here. This shit's a fuck show. Like, dude, there's 2 hotels. One's destroyed, dude. We're sleeping in moldy ass college rooms that were closed down for 20 years. I don't know what the fuck's going on in this city, dude. It was the craziest shit. Luckily, I was with the cool crew, so I made it. But like, it was fucking disaster capitalism 101. Like,
Yo,
what
did
are
we
we?
get Justin back?
What's in here? Calm down, man. Quit yelling. Look, no,
can you hear me?
I'm gonna be yelling.
Yeah,
How do you make a profit? How are you guys making money in these end times?
Uh,
working for $15 an hour.
yeah,
Dang.
sounds about
Yeah,
right.
it's
So
swinging.
back to lead poisoning. That's one of the things the company I work for does is we test for lead in drinking water for like daycares and schools and churches and shit. Like that just blows my mind. Like the fact that we still have to test for lead in the 21st century. Like I thought we would have had this shit fixed by now.
We don't got to worry about anything here.
But
Elon's taking.
I guess we need a certain like small amount of lead in the water supply because we can't have these kids getting too smart. Otherwise, they might start getting ideas, and
Totally, yeah.
that would fuck up the whole system.
You really want
And we
your kid to
can't
be
have that.
trying to be so
Nobody wants their kid to be the next Einstein.
right? We are scared of AI. Remember, just imagine AI. Terrifying.
Devon asks, "What state is this in? Like, what state am I in? I'm in Illinois."
Tornado Alley.
Yep.
I wonder when. I remember there was a sci-fi movie where a hurricane formed in the Great Lakes. Wonder how far away we
You
are
talking
from
about the
that.
day after tomorrow?
No, it was called Category 6. It was like a CBS.
Category 6. They're That's
There was like
funny.
a
They're actually
Chicago.
talking about
There was like
making a
Chicago
Category
tornadoes
6
or
now.
something. Say it again.
I said it's funny. They're actually talking about making a Category 6 for hurricanes now.
Reality
Yeah.
is fucking up all our good dystopian fiction for real.
Right?
I'm gonna sue Congress.
Let me double check it.
Let me get in on that class action.
Let's do it. Let's do a class action lawsuit against Congress. You've killed
Yeah, it's
against
called
that time forever.
Category 6 Day of Destruction. It actually came out the same year as the Day After Tomorrow.
Really?
What was
Yeah, Category 6. I'm pretty sure there was a Category 7 too, like a sequel. They weren't
Oh,
very
yeah.
great. It was like cable news. It was like cable TV disaster movie. Like,
Oh
Yeah.
days, man.
but
The
I
peak of
enjoyed
civilization, like I was saying.
I enjoyed those things.
Fuck yeah.
Made for TV movies were the peak of civilization. It's all downhill from there.
People.
They have terrible ratings too, and I'm like, I still want to watch it. Earthquake movies too. They're always like terrible plots.
So y'all like you guys don't meditate at all?
Mm, I mean,
I'll
does
try.
sleep count?
Kinda. Yeah, if you're able to do it. All right, I was just wondering. Well,
I
you've
try to
done
do some lucid dreaming sometimes, but that's about it.
How do you do that? I've never been able to like successfully
I
do
don't
it.
think you can choose to lucid dream. It's a fucking superhuman fucking ability. Apparently
I
Brett
think
has.
you can either do it or you can't.
Can you transfer it or something?
Uh,
Oh.
it's usually like when I'm about to wake up, like it's like in that weird like in between space between being conscious and being unconscious. Like
Damn, that's how I always feel. Maybe that's my problem.
Maybe. I mean, obviously, you could always try to meditate more, but it's kind of difficult when you got to work so
I used
much
to
and
be
then
able to do full
Right.
lotus. I can't do full lotus. I could full lotus when I couldn't meditate. And now that I can meditate, I can't do full lotus. Maybe I should try that again. Yeah, I haven't.
I'm not flexible enough to do full lotus. I can't
Maybe.
even do half lotus.
I literally haven't tried in so long. So I
I'm
just.
not even sure what that is.
But I think the thing is,
I was even just trying to sit Indian style here on the couch, and it was starting to hurt.
oh,
Right,
good.
I can't even-
Let it hurt. Let it hurt, Brett. Sometimes pain is not a bad thing. And then just switch up your legs the other direction.
That's
For
what I was
real, dude.
doing every
Flexible,
time I'd
man.
like shift position, but now I gotta like stretch out.
Flexible. Flexibility is like the main survival ability, in the age of collapse. Just be flexible, dude. Just let shit hit you. Ooh, just let it hit you. Flip around it, like
That's what
It
they
sounds
try to teach
crazy.
us in Taekwondo.
It's not even that. It's just like I don't know. It's because people want to teach you, they want to put it in boxes like like political ideology and everything. But really, it's like take what you can. 'Cause at the end of the day, the core is not in a box. It didn't come in a box. What consciousness is, what it is to be like a living being, a living, a Homo sapien, an ape. Especially understanding what's going on in this age, the year of all our dead gods, 2024. You know, there's no box to put that shit in. What it is to be alive and experiencing shit, and we forget how amazing the simplest shit is. And then that's why we demand infinite growth and 10 private jets and fucking $1 billion and a lower fucking tax rate than your fucking local dishwasher. Like, yo, the world's gone crazy.
Yeah, where's the outrage about that? Billionaires now pay lower taxes than like the bottom half of income earners.
Dude, I've been there. This has been, I got activated doing. So I first did my real activism. Kinda, I did some before, I guess, but in the Occupy days, Occupy Wall Street.
God, I miss the
That's
Occupy movement. I wish that would have gone further. I wish they hadn't have shut that
why.
shit down so hard.
And they knew what
Like
they
I
were
was
doing.
I was saying back then, like the
Know what
Tea
happened.
Party patriots and the Occupy Wall Streeters need to team up because they're both going after the same people. They just
Crazy.
don't know it, that
Here
their
in
enemies
Atlanta,
are the same.
they had an anti-free speech bill that would have criminalized protest or like very ambiguously as a felony around anywhere where there's a labor dispute. And so we got the Tea Party on board, and so the local we ended up shutting down the bill actually. Like people don't know the shit that happened. Like crazy shit happened. Like the Occupy movement did some shit and made a lot of ripples and differences that led to Bernie 2016 and 2020 and all the movements in between, basically all
Yep.
the good shit we've seen in the world since. Shit, I see the same motherfuckers at the Palestine protests as I met in the Occupy days, 12, 13 years ago. So Justin's back with us. Let's go, bro. You're looking extra surreal. I like this framing, bro. Fuck yeah.
It's got the Dutch angle going on.
This is cool. For real. I'm not even joking. Keep it.
Someone in the chat said the northern lights are going on. I want to go take a look outside and
Oh, you can see
see
that
if I
shit?
can see them. There's
I
probably
can't
too
even
much light pollution here, but
see the fucking North Star. You probably changed its name. Now it's called Tent City Holeless.
yeah, no, it's too cloudy. Never mind.
Oh, well. We had a lot of tent cities since then. You don't know, bro. I mean, yeah, we got boomers in the chat. Your own government doesn't care for you. No, the shit. Who fucking cares? Government isn't even a thing, dude. This is childish ass thinking that brought us to this point. It's like cynical and childish. It's like, no shit, your government. What does that even mean, dude? Your government is what you make it. We are our government, dude. Like, what it is what we make it.
The
So say,
people are the government.
oh, what you mean? Like the shit that you shaped for the last 40 years of your life doesn't care about me? I would be shocked. You fucking loser ass boomer, dude. Please. But last
I don't
organized.
even blame boomers that much. Honestly, I blame the silent generation.
They
Because like
didn't know.
boomers, they were the generation of like, the hippies and like the Vietnam War protesters and shit. Like boomers are not to blame that much as people think they are. Like it's the silent generation that's to blame. There's a reason they're called the silent generation, which is because they never made a fuss about anything. They kept their mouths shut, they kept their heads down, they were quiet and fucking. And I can't hear Justin. I can see him talking, but there's no audio coming through. Sorry.
Fuck is that
Maybe
us?
maybe I
And
should unmute my
Justin's
thing.
part of the
I was
silent.
gonna say
Oh
maybe
yeah,
they should have
unmute
said
yourself.
something. The silent generation, they should have said something.
Yeah, yeah. The
No
silent
problem.
generation shouldn't have been so silent. They should have spoke up. But they were raised by the Great Depression generation.
Yeah.
Be grateful
Like
for.
my grandparents, they were born in the Great Depression. Like my grandpa was born what 1927, 28. My grandma was born 1930. Think about that. Being born in the Great Depression and having to grow up eating dirt.
And then
Yeah,
watching
well, I
the.
mean, like, I just think about the Grapes of Wrath passages, and I
Yes.
mean, I think it's partly how we've gotten to this point where society's handled World War II, we handled the Great Depression, so we can handle climate change. Like, no, it's not the same thing.
Yo. Yeah,
They're a little different.
a little different.
Somebody said want to smoke. Yeah, I think I smoked it a little bit too much beforehand. That's why I'm so calm. But it's just also I would say it took me a long time to get to the point of being calm. Like I I participated with my partner in a grief recovery workshop a few years ago, and it really was one of the most eye-opening experiences I've ever had, and understood just how much grief, and everybody's just holding in so much grief all the time. So it's someone said they're smoking diamonds. Yeah, I'm super jealous. Yeah, but it's part of the difficulty of all this is we're grieving constantly. We're grieving the political system we want that doesn't exist. We're grieving the wages that are fair that don't exist. We're grieving the lack of all these decades we're allegedly not going to get if it gets too hot, and crops keep failing, and water keeps being scarce, and microplastics invade our bloodstream and the stoma of plants. So even when you're eating organic, you're still eating microplastics.
Mm-hmm. Got to get your credit card worth every week.
Yummy.
Someone had commented about organic food needing manure. Like, yeah. So this is the weird thing. We've reached the inflection point where, because of the manure that organic plants need, like organic, vegetables are now more full of microplastics, probably unhealthier than, your run of the mill GMO Monsanto crop. It's crazy.
I don't know if it's like 50-50,
at the end of the day, there's
it's just hard.
bioaccumulation. Bioaccumulation is the reality. If you're eating higher on the food chain, you're eating more of the accumulation of all the persistent chemicals that we've released, and at this point, we've reached a saturation point. It's going up everywhere. It's going to go up until we change our behavior. And apparently, 4 years of Trump, nothing was done to reduce CO2 emissions. 4 years of Biden, nothing was done to reduce CO2 emissions. Oh, but we changed shit on the ledger. Oh, but guess what? Jesse Jenks.
The other problem is natural.
Blocked me again. Motherfucker blocked me again. It's the architect of Biden's whole fucking cheerleading degree. Like,
Rowan Switch says don't eat people, but Soylent Green is people.
Yeah. You think about like all the natural methane feedback loops going on right now, or I'm not sure if everyone's
scale,
seen
the scale of what we need for our food.
Arctic lake where they did the sonar and discovered that like lake beds are sinking in the Arctic, and even little tiny lakes are burping up methane. It's like carbon emissions and what we're doing to reduce them. Nothing about the natural feedback loops in Siberia and the Arctic is being factored into net zero.
Right.
I just want to say, if there are aliens out there listening, I just want to say, fuck you for not intervening. Fuck you for not coming to save from ourselves. Fuck you, bitches. Y'all knew better. You're here to watch us. Fuck you, aliens. That's what I got to say. Fuck the aliens.
Fuck you for not coming to pick me up and take me out of this shithole.
Dumbasses.
Stupid aliens.
Fuck you, stupid ass. You know what we're gonna do. Fuck you. You're either evil or you're stupid, just like God. This is some bullshit. Fuck you. Fuck you. Aliens are just like God. Fuck God. Fuck aliens. Boom. Official end of the world party statement just dropped.
I like that comment about, I think we're starting to realize that we're fucking powerless.
We are not the
most three of us, but
that have ever
existed. People in the chat are.
Compare yourself to a medieval serf. Compare yourself to your grandfather like 200 years ago, whatever the fuck was going on. Like
medieval serfs had more free time than we do.
We have so much more information and so much more power to influence. Well, we just don't. This is where we disagree. This is where our fundamental differences all are, Justin. And now you leave me, Justin.
No, I'm here. I'm just checking. Go nowhere. Continue your statement.
Oh man. But for real, right?
I remembered what we were going to debate now on whether we're overpopulated or just over-consuming.
We're over-consuming, but we're over. The thing is, we're all going to consume at the end of the day. Like, and it's like, what are you going to consume? This is the question. This is why.
Are you going to consume at the level of a first world American, or are you going to consume at the level of a Bhutanese child?
Yeah, and I mean, there's a question, but there's also there's the bigger question. The bigger question is, where do these two meet in the middle, in the long term? Like, this is the big question that we don't ever actually, because we want to use it rhetorically whenever we want to use it in whatever direction we want to use it. But it's like, at the end of the day, what matters is how these two are going to meet in the middle historically, and how we can direct that. And we have to think about that, and we shape it. whether we don't do anything, we do anything, whatever we do, this way, that way, we are going to shape it. There's no more exemption for us of all motherfucking people. We are the Doomigos, the three Doomigos.
See, I don't know. I don't
There's
know
no.
if we're gonna meet in the middle. Like, I don't see the third
I'm not
world coming up
saying,
to American standards of living. I more see America, being brought down to third world standards of living.
but this is what I would say is the whole false paradox of the thing. Is we were just talking about how like running through the woods for months on end, just smoking weed, living off strangers, philanthropy or charity and shit, like is fucking a fucking experience of like being alive, like, and we've got to square this shit. All that, like, we don't really need a new iPhone every goddamn year. We don't really need to eat fucking animals. Sorry, I haven't eaten animals in so fucking long. I don't even know fucking year it is. But like, dude, we don't need that shit. And that's so much higher on the food chain, so much more energy density that we require at every level. And you're accumulating all that fucking shit. Destroy like it can't fucking work. Like shit like that. I don't see what are we doing here? What are we doing?
I like Gene's idea. Get up early to plant corn, beans, and squash, and be happy it's raining.
Yeah, I mean you can plant food. Like I mean you should, but the thing is we should all have fucking. The thing is we are
We,
not going to
we should all
coordinate.
be growing our own food.
What's
Is
going to
what we should be
coordinate is
doing.
8 billion humans. Is 300. We even though we've got this vast continent, we're not going to coordinate as 300 million humans across this vast continent in a way that's ecologically sustainable over decades if we don't have government fucking involved in a smart fucking way. And right now it's involved in just the dumbest fucking possible way. Like I don't know what like I mean
Okay,
books
here's how the
I'd like to
government should
comment
get
on
involved. It
uh
should reinstitute freedom gardens and reinstitute the citizen, what is it, the CCC, the Citizen Something Corps. But
yeah,
we
they
should
started
rename it the
that. I signed up
Citizen
for that.
Climate
I'm
Corps.
curious. They didn't call me up. I think I'm too old or something. We're too old to save the world, y'all. According to the Biden administration or some shit. I signed up for that shit. I don't know. Yeah, the thing is because they have tons of fucking applicants and no fucking real jobs, and it's all bullshit. It's just
Because we got too many bullshit jobs. We
yeah,
got 3 to 4
exactly. It's
billion
like it's a good
bullshit
idea.
jobs, and we
Honestly,
wonder why nothing that needs doing gets done.
learn to live with
Citizen
less.
Conservation Corps. That's what it is. Thank you, Devon.
Yeah.
Or Civilian Conservation Corps.
And they restarted that. It started again. There are some. There are probably like 200 people fucking doing it now.
Drew says it
Yeah,
was
I'm
in the
thinking, yeah,
1930s. Yeah, to get us out of the Great Depression. Because you had all these people without jobs, so
Yeah.
the government gave them all jobs.
And I mean, we know how we, beat the Great Depression and beat fascism. It was like libraries.
Don't worry, there's going to be a lot of jobs in disaster management. Yes.
Yeah. A lot less than you'd think, I'm sure. Honestly, that's the thing. Like, I think things like as soon as it's clear that there's no,
Where's all the refuse going from all the tornadoes? There's jobs.
oof.
There's a video on Vimeo you
these are
guys
some
should
real
watch.
boomer
It's called
comments.
Roses on My Table. And it's a documentary about the Wingnut Anarchist Collective in Richmond, Virginia.
Which
And
one?
it was filmed during, I forget what the name of the hurricane was, but a hurricane came and hit Virginia. And what happened after was all these anarchists got together and started cleaning up the shit because the city wasn't coming through and pulling all these down trees out of the streets. So what did these kids do? They got in their trucks and got their hand saws, and one guy had a chainsaw, but the rest of them all had hand saws, and they just all went out and started pulling the trees out of the streets and cutting them up and making firewood and shit.
I remember Occupy Sandy in 2012. Yeah, after Sandy hit, like, because that was during the Occupy days. And Occupy, yeah, they were doing shit. The Red Cross was fucking up. And the fucking Occupy Santa was like, dude, like literally our anarchist, random ass fucking collective shit coming together has
Yep.
like more capacity than the fucking Red Cross. Like,
Yep.
this isn't a sign of collapse. Like, hello. Hello.
That's really all you need is just organization and direct action, and that pretty much gets pretty much
Today,
everything you
there's
need
need. It's
done.
like, give
Done.
a shit. The problem is when there's not that immediate need, when there's not that scream for immediate collective need. Like that's
Yeah.
where I like that's
Like,
with
what do we
climate
do in
change.
the meantime?
This is but it's with climate change though, because it's a problem that's our carbon emissions aren't our problem. Our carbon emissions are the next generation's problem. Sorry, y'all.
Our problem is the previous generation's carbon emissions, because
Exactly,
there's
and
like
it's
a
like
10
it
to
keeps
30 year
building
time
like
lag
this,
between emissions and heating.
and it's like, but the consequences keep,
They keep
piling up.
compounding. Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't know. Sandy, where you at? How long we been fucking talking here?
I'm
Lightning
here.
rod. What are you going to do when China stops? Where are you going to get your spark plugs?
I'm gonna get my what? Hold up. Man, I don't
Your
Okay.
spark plugs.
I'm the official
fucking boomers.
timekeeper.
All these goddamn anyway.
There was a good comment
I
too
still
about
don't
cleaning up
Doom.
after the disasters. How much more waste and trash goes into the landfills as there's more like tornadoes every year and
Yes.
hurricanes and stuff. And it's like
Yep.
we're gonna run out of space to put all the destruction.
Wolf Heino says they saw emergency landfills while deployed to disasters. It looked more like a promiscuous dump. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what a landfill is.
I mean, it's
Where are you
fair to
going? I'm
imply
going to the dump.
I'm sorry, Nadia. Yeah, the USSR probably did more to defeat fucking fascism, but it's not my fault. I wasn't there.
Nadia.
I wasn't there. I'm sorry.
No.
Hmm.
Saying that.
All right. So what do you guys say? It's 2 hours. I'm being the
Wow, yeah.
timekeeper. I think for the first time, it was pretty good discussion. You guys got animated.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, as I follow this guy on Twitter. I think it goes by Collapse Aphorisms, and he was already posting today about
Yes.
to try to find the best in the Doomers and not argue with them. So, like, even though we do
Mhm.
disagree, it's like I'm still looking for common ground. Like, I will staunchly oppose certain ideas and viewpoints, and at the same time, I'm still looking for common ground with the Doomers because there's only a
I
couple of
want to
us.
see I'm a boomer. No, I'm Generation Joe.
We got to remember we're such an extreme minority. Like, yeah. Well, we didn't even talk about that. Should we?
No, we're gonna be saying goodnight.
Should we go another hour?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
could though. I got
We'll have
a
to make a
reclining
plan
chair.
again.
Going to the bar. I'm gonna yell at motherfuckers about two C's impossible.
No, I have a
3 hours for the three Doomigos.
All right, y'all.
I think it was cute.
It was. Justin, I've known you for a while, but never really met you. Brett, it's good to meet you. Yo,
It's a good
All
chat.
here goes. Sandy, thank you for bringing us together.
Well, you're the 30-somethings. The 30-somethings. we gotta hear from you, right? I think. All right, everybody. Then, who wants to bring up? I always say bring up the rear. Who wants to say the last good night? And now I'll put the music back on. We'll wake everybody up. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
All right, guys. Good night. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I like to do different things, and I think this was fun.
Looney Tunes says, let's go for 6 hours. I was saying 3. Give the 3 Doomigos 3 hours.
Really?
An hour for each of us.
Then I have
Somebody
to
said
like
something
go
about
lay
20-somethings
down.
Doomers. If there are 20-somethings Doomers, I would
Let's
love
do
to
20 somethings. Yeah, let's hear Gen Z's take on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's a thought.
Are you guys ready?
All
As a
right.
millennial, I'm totally in support of Gen Z and what they're doing.
Hell
Yep.
yeah.
All right.
All right, yeah, peace out, everybody.
Nighty night, guys. Yes.
Power to the people.
Oh, they want to know who's the drummer.
Justin's got the tattoo of the
Justin's a
hourglass.
drummer.
Nice.
Justin's
I can't
a
keep
drummer.
rhythm.
I can
Make noise.
We can see it.
Justin can keep
Hard
reading.
to say that.
There we
Oh,
go.
yeah, there
there
it
we go.
is.
Yep, we see it.
The time.
Time's running out.
I can
my
edit.
Time's
God.
I'll make it work.
Time's up. Oh, there we go. It says
Is that
time's up.
Yep.
Nice.
All right. Good
Good day,
night,
Chat.
everybody. Peace out.
Good night.